everybody panic. Welcome back to the team room, everybody. You got it. The whole team. Trent actually popped back up on the net from his PME. He's all blued up. He's excited to be here. I'm excited to be here. Peach is excited to be here. Why? Because we have Lieutenant Colonel Sam Schindler, the 330th Recruiting Squadron Commander, on to answer all of your questions about literally everything. The man comes with slide decks. He comes with extra pieces of paper. He comes with reading lists. He's going to be able to lay this out for you. Sir, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for coming on.
Well, I appreciate it. I'm assuming you introed me, but you broke up there in the middle. So I'm Sam Schindler. I'm not
sure
the
magic
where you
of
got
technology,
through.
Sir.
Yeah, there was about 20 seconds there that you went offline. So Sam Schindler, I'm the 330th Recruiting Squadron Commander, and happy to be here.
Awesome. It wouldn't be a podcast if I didn't screw something up. I will hear about it in the comments section later, but it's going to be, it'll be fine. It'll work out. Sir, why don't you give us a little bit of background about who you are and your career prior to taking command of the 330th?
Yeah, I appreciate it. I am a Special Tactics Officer by trade, been in for 27 years. Formerly, I was an enlisted combat controller for 11 years. Got some tactical time. I turned over as a tech sergeant. Got a deployment into Afghanistan and was an instructor when we stood up the advanced skills training. With Peaches, you were there in the beginning. Stood that up, and then I decided to cross over and be an officer. As I took the officer role on, I've spent some time in staff. I was able to deploy as a JTAC with a Special Forces ODA in Afghanistan, and then I ran into some medical problems, and we'll talk about that a little bit in the future. I think one of the reasons why folks can trust the Air Force is because I was taken care of as well. I should have been removed from the Air Force long ago, but because of my medical stuff, I've spent a large amount of time in training and staff positions, as well as I've had an opportunity to stand up the 26 STS out at Cannon Air Force Base, and been able to see a lot of the changes that we've had in special tactics and special warfare as a whole through positions across AFSOC headquarters. Like I said, the 26 STS. I spent time at the 23rd STS as a team leader, as well as an operator. And then when we stood up the Special Warfare Training Wing, I was there as a director of operations for the 350th Special Warfare Training Squadron. Most recently, I was out at the 26 again as a director of operations. So I have a more experience in the training and recruiting world than I do on the operational side at this point. So I can answer any questions associated with that and why we've come where we're at, and the background and history on battlefield airmen, special warfare, special tactics, all that sort of stuff. So it's kind of a long intro.
That's a perfect intro. I want to say thank you for your service. And I'm not talking about the deployments. I'm talking about all those stations at Clovis. Like, wow, you were just living that life in the land of enchantment. So you decided one thing.
26 STS is the best special tactics unit in the world.
Stop. The only reason I disagree with you is because of objective data and truth. 22 STS. Shout out. What's up?
All right.
I'll say that till I die, my dude. So I do want to talk real quick about one thing specifically about you. So you made the decision to go as an enlisted guy over to being a STO, and we have a lot of people that think about doing that stuff, and their reasoning is always a little bit different. Can you explain why, as a tech sergeant combat controller, you decided you wanted to be a STO?
Yeah, as everyone's kind of deciding to come into this career path, it's all about personal choices. But I think we've done a lot of things differently in the way we bring folks into the community. And every time that I've come up to that decision point in my career, it's just I describe it as walking through the open door. I was recruited out of basic training, and we do things significantly different now, of course, in preparation for our development and whatnot. But I had the choice between taking a PT test or cleaning the dorms. I had no idea what combat control, pararescue, any of that stuff was. I chose to take a PT test. Yeah, the top 10% could be pararescuemen. Everybody else had to be combat controllers. Now, of course, I was number one. But I don't like blood and hearing people cry and bitch about their stuff. So
me either. It's my bugaboo. I don't like loud noises. I don't like blood.
That's right. So I decided to go combat control. But anyways, around the time my son was born, he was 10 weeks early. He was premature, and I had gotten my bachelor's degree through through classes in the Excelsior Dante's CLEP School for Excellence. I decided, what am I going to do with my life? So my son's in the NICU for 6 weeks, and I'm watching him grow, and I'm like, what am I going to do with this degree? And just like many of us in our careers, I had a mentor, I had a leader that said, "Why don't you try out?" And I was like, "You want me to try out? I guess I can do that." And was given the opportunity to go that direction, and I walked through that open door. It really was. I kind of fell through that open door, just like I was in basic training when I decided to either clean the dorms or go take a PT test. So it wasn't that smooth. I ended up breaking a leg on a jump and other things. Life happened, but eventually that door was open and left open for me, and I decided to cross over. And it was kind of a shock going from the enlisted side and being an operator in the team rooms and whatnot, and going to that officer side. But it's definitely been a worthwhile experience, and I wouldn't change it for the world.
Well, we get those questions a lot too. Is what's the difference between the two? Can I still operate? Like, and you mentioned you still had a JTAC rotation as an officer.
I did.
But like, how long is that opportunity open for an officer, and what are the huge differences that you saw? So I obviously just thought that you thought you were better than everybody else, and you wanted to go be a stow. But not to whatever. But
facts.
What are the differences? And if someone's coming in off the street and they want to be a stow, what are realistic expectations for tactical time?
Yeah, the difference between going stow and on the enlisted side, I'll tell you, I really appreciated going from the enlisted side to going an officer, because I could fill a lot of different roles. So as that discussion with when I was a JTAC, as a lieutenant, I replaced a staff sergeant, and I rolled into the team and was able to fill that role as a tactical joint terminal attack controller, and I went into an airfield that it was a 10,000 foot airfield that I was the airfield manager. I was the manager of all the people that came in and out and all the logistics and all that sort of thing. But like I replaced the staff sergeant. But my first job as a lieutenant, I replaced a major. And having that enlisted experience, I came over, and as a second lieutenant, I'm taking the job that a major was holding. Obviously, there was expectations were different from my inexperience of being an officer. But my second job, I replaced a major as the chief of weapons and tactics. And then I come in, and then I replace as a first lieutenant. I replace another lieutenant, and then, like I said, operationally, I replace the staff sergeant. So when you spend time on the enlisted side, and then you go on the officer, you can go kind of up and down the chain and experience a lot of different things on the staff side, headquarters level type things, as well as the tactical side. And it's good to be able to move between those different duties.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I think on the training side, so one of the reasons I love training is I get to be out there with all the youngins and scream and yell and enjoy all that stuff and kind of push them. You're so embedded in the process as an E-man. And I think the first time I ever met you, you were in charge of the selection course. I think you were a first lieutenant or a captain at the time. But what's that like? Did you ever miss how do you get your how do you stay connected to everything as an officer? Because you are kind of like pushed further away. Like, what are your tricks and tips to maintain that connection and keep? I don't know. I have a hard time being away from the action. You know what I mean? I'm not explaining this very well.
Absolutely.
This is why I'm not an officer, guys. This is why I never commissioned.
No, it is extremely difficult. I think you have people that make that transition that still want to be fully engaged at the tactical level and be involved. And then there's folks like I enjoy nothing more than being able to delegate and let the dogs run, because the best ideas, the most fortunate opportunities that we have is when we let our highly intelligent, highly capable, highly competent individuals on our teams just do their job. And it is amazing when you allow our caliber of people in our organization afford them the opportunity to fail. It is incredible. And then when they do fail or misstep or whatever, then you just pick up where they left off and open the door and remove the red tape and allow them to move forward. And as an officer, that's what I've enjoyed the most, is being able to take the talents and the strengths and weaknesses of the individuals that we have in our force, and then, like I said earlier about my upbringing, is like open that door for them and say, hey, there's a lot of things, there's a lot of opportunities over here.
Did you find any kind of difficulties in that transition, going from the kind of mentality and the job of an enlisted person to now an officer? Just because, like, we have a bunch, like, this happens more often than not. A lot of people don't know that it even exists, that you can go from enlisted to officer. And so once they find out that's an option, they're pretty happy about it. I mean, it's a good gig. But we have folks like yourself, and I won't mention full names, but you got Hoyle, you've got,
Right.
like, there's a bunch
Yeah.
of enlisted that went off. And sometimes there is an internal struggle with, okay, well, I've been an NCO, especially you, because you were a full up NCO at the time and had been for a while. You go through this NCO mentality, and then now you've almost got to flip it and be this entirely different role, and some of that kind of transfers over with it. What were some of those friction points for you?
Yeah, that's a really complicated question, and
Very.
in this form, yeah, they're absolutely, like, what is the right thing to do by the person? What is the right thing to do by the organization? What is the right thing to do by the Air Force? All of those things kind of come into context associated with that, and being away from the team guy mentality, and the NCO is just like mission, mission, mission. Take care of those sort of things. Opening up that aperture to worry about the mission and your people and the families and the perceptions and all the politics associated with those sort of things, and like right, wrong, or indifferent, it's there. And so taking all those things into context, it's not just about me and the one thing that I'm going to get after, the mission that I'm preparing for, the exercise that's coming up. It's just having that strategic vision is difficult to make that transition and think past the now. We are so busy across all of our entities in our organizations, that it's just taking the time to take a knee to have that strategic vision, I think, is the hardest thing that I and the friction points that I had. And then gaining the trust of the senior leaders to be able to open the more doors, that kind of like that I was talking about earlier. If your senior leadership doesn't trust you as an officer, then you failed your men and your teammates.
No, nailed it. So it was a complicated question, but it wasn't that bad.
Crushed it, man. Making my sled dog heart happy.
Yeah. So as you are now the 330th Recruiting Squadron Commander, so you have essentially not left Special Tactics, but you are in a different role and arena now. And wow, what a difference this probably makes for you. So what are some of your initial things that the 330th, and especially you as the commander, are now getting after stepping right into this role?
Yeah, so the 330th Recruiting Squadron handles special warfare, the four operator enlisted career fields that we talk about, plus SEER and EOD, and we classify them as combat support, and we take them, and it's take them on a little bit differently than our special warfare operator enlistment, the SWOE. We take them on a little bit differently, but things, as I came into the position, things were kind of up in the air. It was like, how do we handle the recruiting problems that exist across all the services in the Air Force specifically, and the competition associated with getting the right people in the door for our business, right? And then finding the right people for all four of those career fields that is kind of determined in the pipeline, but then SEER and EOD as well. So I consider there's four actors or participants in that role right now, and the enlisted accessions, like the regular recruiters that are sitting in the strip malls, they are now on goal starting this year. They are on goal to bring in and contract out our special warfare by the recruiter. They have a number that they have to meet every year to bring in special warfare, SEER, and EOD. Additionally, we have 94 special warfare recruiters that are on goal inside of the 330th and spread out across the United States. One of the questions that was brought up that might come out, and I'll throw it out here, is like the best place to find information is airforce.com. Airforce.com/careers and in demand careers. And the big thing is, like, if you guys are looking for a recruiter, airforce.com/find a recruiter. You throw in your zip code, and you throw in your interest, whether that's active duty, enlisted, officer, or whatever, and it will show you the nearest enlisted, officer, healthcare, and special warfare recruiter. So you just throw in any random zip code, and it'll tell you exactly where to go and what their contact information is, right? So we have those two big entities, and they'll help you out. But then we also have what's called scouts, and those are former operators, CREOD guys that are subject matter experts in our fields and are able to help with the development of our pool. And then we have 39 contractors that are the T3I developers, that field developers is what they're referred to as, that basically mentor mentally and physically all of our recruits to become better airmen in the long term. So anyways, as I was coming in, looking at that massive swath of national presence and trying to get folks to come into the Air Force and Special Warfare, it is a large responsibility, and there's a lot of things at stake, and every region is kind of different. So we try and handle those things specifically. But
yeah, awesome. That's a lot of info, and I appreciate it. And you guys do make it easy, though. Like the Air Force and 330th do make it easy to find a recruiter. So definitely go check that out. One thing you said that I want to just kind of pick on a little bit, just because I know that we'll get a lot of comments or a lot of questions on it. And you were talking about numbers. There had to be, like, they have to make their numbers or their quota, which historically, like, you would hear people, oh yeah, the recruiters are just trying to make their numbers, so they're going to lie to you, they're going to tell you whatever they want just to get your numbers in, and just because that's what they got to do. So I know that that's going to be a thought process or a comment, so that's why I wanted to bring it up to you, just to elaborate on that a little bit. Like, I don't necessarily need to know what the numbers are, but like, is the 330th or is AFSPECWAR having an issue even meeting those numbers? And if so, like, what are some of the limb facts?
Right now, we have met our goals, but the goals change, right? So in the training pipeline, due to multiple different circumstances, like, the pipeline's pretty full, and anyone that's in the development pool will tell you that, like, there's a little bit of weight between different courses that are out there, and so there is pressure on the Air Force at large, as well as my unit, to meet that number. Like, our job is to sell people to come into the Air Force and join a really good team. Like you're not going to be disappointed if you come into Special Warfare. I guarantee it. But we have numbers that are associated with that. So I'll tell you, we're looking at, for Sierra and EOD, we're bringing in 600 this year, and we're bringing in right around 900 for the rest of the career fields. So we have 6 ship dates across the year, the calendar year, and our goal is 185 per ship date for special warfare operator enlistment. What we've been able to negotiate to get after your point, the goal is 185, but like, finding that exact number, and that's how they do normal recruiting, is like, you need 5 mechanics, you're bringing in 5 mechanics. You don't bring 4, you don't bring 6, you bring 5. And what we've been able to negotiate and talk about is like, hey, sometimes it's harder to bring in folks, right? January's hard, August is easy, those sort of things. So we've been able to negotiate, like, hey, a range from 140 to 185 per ship date, and so we're able to meet the overall goal of meeting it in that range. So that's been something that's been beneficial starting fiscal year 23.
Nice. So, sir, you laid out a perfect framework for what we want to talk about, because we want to give people the exact information that they have, and you already kind of glossed over it, but we want to kind of dig in. So from the time that somebody approaches a SWOV, and can you put the website out there one more time? Say it louder for the people in the back, because people hit us up all the time. They're like, I can't find a recruiter, and we get sick of typing this out. So one more time, they're going to find a recruiter. They've made the choice to go to the best Air Force that this world has ever seen in the history of mankind.
Yeah.
How do they actually find a recruiter?
So yeah, it's super easy. And I did this morning because I was going to talk about it. This morning I did it and went through all the process. So it's just www.airforce.com/find-a-recruiter. You throw in your zip code, you throw in what you're interested in, whether that's active duty, enlisted, officer, healthcare, or whatnot. But it doesn't matter what you say that you're interested in. You click on it, you click search, and it will pop up with an active duty enlisted, an active duty officer, a healthcare provider, and the fourth option at the bottom is a special warfare recruiter. If you click on special warfare recruiter, it will get the nearest recruiter to you with their name and phone number, address, and the whole gambit. And you just click it and follow up with that person.
Thank goodness. And that's what we call marked for later, because that's going to be a reel, sir. You're about to be internet famous because you just gave everybody good information in a short amount of time. So the other question we get is they make that first contact, and we get this feedback a lot. Yeah. We get people that are excited to get in, and I can't bemoan them for their motivation. However, they're a little bit impatient. So from the time that they make that contact and they say, hey, recruiter, I want to talk to you and I want to start this process, there's sometimes a delay. How long should they wait before they start really starting to ping this dude? Because here's a great example. Oftentimes we get DMs and they say, hey, I hit this recruiter up and I haven't heard anything back. And we're like, well, how long has it been? And they're like, 3 days. We're like, bro, this guy has 100 people that he's talking to every single day, 12 hours a day, and you just hit him up. So how long should they wait before they start really re-engaging with their recruiter?
I would say, and this may be an unreal expectation, but I would say within 48 hours they should be contacted. If they're going 3 days, they're not going to be contacted. So if you go to that website, airforce.com /find-a-recruiter, you will you have the opportunity to, again, you have a phone number, you have an email address, you have a name, and you have an address. So I would say if you tried the email and that didn't work, then call. If you call and that didn't work, then I would find your happy butt over to the recruiter office and talk to them in person. And if that doesn't work,
so you're saying that these
go ahead.
You're saying that these prospective operators should try to fix their own problem and really go about and be a mature adult. Okay, tight. Absolutely. I like it. So it is a lot. So the next thing that that you kind of touched on there is they're going to get with their recruiter. They're going to enter into the program, right? So we're going to talk about how long it takes to ship here in a second, but I really want to focus on the development process and the developers at T3I. I'm going to make the official request. We've been saying this for 2 years. Hey, sir, if there are any developers that you would like to get on, we would love to have them on. Okay. I think you're the right guy to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But hey, T3I, come on, baby. Let's go. We want to talk about the goodness of your program. What does that development contract look like?
So the contract, the T3I contractors for the
I'm sorry, I misspoke. Not the contract. I want to talk about the program. I misspoke. Okay, what do the contractors do for those?
Yeah. So the program at large is once we have and it's shifting a little bit because of what I was speaking to earlier, the enlisted accessions recruiter having a piece of this, whereas it was just kind of a special warfare recruiter thing in previous years. But so once their individuals are identified and they meet the requirements to enter into the service with the enlisted recruiter, they will be given an IFT, an initial fitness test. Once they have gone through that, and there's for SWOE right now, the standards to enter to get that contract is 8 pull-ups, 48 sit-ups, 40 push-ups, and 1.5 miles run in 11 minutes. No swim. That is to enter into the development program. Once they're entered into the development, then the field developers basically have inside their areas, they are contractually required to do 5 sessions in that area. So the recruits have an opportunity to go through each month to do 5 events, whether that's IFTs or what we call development sessions. Those development sessions are 4 hours in length. There is a lot of physical activity, and it's kind of a wide berth depending on the developer that you're going to be working with. But that usually includes some sort of cardiovascular workout, some sort of strength and conditioning type of workout, and water, depending on your local location and what those sort of things. 4 hours is a long time to be working out, and our candidates are not able to do that entirely. So in the rest periods, they do a lot of mentoring, and you can turn your brain off and not allowed to be mentored. That's fine. But there's a lot of goodness that I have observed across all of our developers. There's a lot of development that's going on in the mind space, not the physical space. So.
Yeah, Peaches and I were actually lucky enough to be invited out to do a development session. So we went out for one of these recruiting events. It was in Ohio, so Dayton, Ohio. It was awesome. I was super impressed by the program and by the event. And just like you were saying, yeah, it was, we did some workouts, we did some push-ups, whatever. But it was way more in the development side as far as mentorship and getting your mind right. So there's a lot of value in that. So for you recruits that are out there, you got 5 times a month to go get this valuable input. Man, I can't put a big enough advertisement out for that.
Absolutely. And there's only 39 across the Air Force, or I'm sorry, across the United States. So you may have to travel for some of them, but I guarantee it'll be worth your time.
Okay. So they're in the development program and they're going through the process of getting themselves ready. How long does it take from when they enter the development process till they get to one of those ship dates?
So it really, right now, if you want to ship quickly, then it's a good time. But I'll tell you, there's a fine balance. There's individuals that spend too much time in development. They get to this point where they think that they have to wait to be ready to go. And you can only know yourself. Nobody else is going to know you better than you do. In that, so my personally, I work better in a team environment. I work better when somebody's pushing me. If you tell me to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and go for a 6 mile run, that probably isn't going to happen. So but if you tell me to go with 20 of my buddies and go for a 6 mile run, that's happening, and I will perform. But other people are different, right? So, but right now our average development pool length in development is 102 days. That's the average.
Okay.
So I would say that if folks are in the development and they have not increased their capability in 3 months, you aren't doing something right. You need to fix whatever it is that you think that you're doing right, because it's not working. So I'll tell you that when you get into the pipeline, when you get into SWIC, when you get into basic training, everyone complains about how basic training is just a waste of time physically. I'm not going to, I increased significantly when I went through basic training, because I was on a proper diet, I was a proper sleep cycle, I had the proper motivation to get after things. I became a beast in basic training because I allowed myself to. Those that don't, you're going to be constrained in some areas, but we have a lot of opportunities that other candidates, other trainees in basic do not have.
Yeah, and kind of on that note, sir, and let me start too. I've also been to a development session here in San Antonio, or there in San Antonio, and I thought it was fantastic. And I love everything about it. I love what was happening out there. He definitely did a better job than I would have done had I been the developer. But from the devil advocate's side, you found out about combat control in basic training. Mm-hmm. Peaches got lost on the way to the small people school, ended up in Air Force basic training, and became a combat controller.
That's right.
Aaron might have needed some development sessions, so he could make it through Indoc first time. But so the argument is there's entire generations of team guys that didn't have all this stuff. They didn't have the development contracts. They didn't have the Gucci basic training workouts. Are we seeing the results of all that? Is this really worth it? What are we really getting out of this? And what are the candidates getting out of it?
That's a really good question. So I think 100% that the Air Force at large is gaining a tremendous amount from this. We still have a high attrition rate, right? And it comes down to the individual being prepared and being ready to be molded. Do you have the capacity? It was called the indoctrination course. If you look up if you look up indoctrination on Google's, like, brainwashing is a synonym. I'm just saying. So, like, are you able to be molded, indoctrinated into a system, into a culture that accepts excellence every single day, right? If you're not, then you're going to find yourself into the regular Air Force or to another service or whatnot. But the development, I'll tell you, is going to make you a better person. Like you guys just said that you've witnessed some. Like, I go there and I learn stuff, and I have a canned speech that I give. So there's a retired chief, Vinny Ventrelli. He talked about this 3 C's: character, competence, and commitment, right? And I had a 4th C. I had confidence, right? And I get this long thing, and I was at one of these development sessions, and I gave this 10-minute spiel on that stuff, and the developer was there, and he's like, "Hey, just have fun. Like, we're all about, like, just getting in there and just, you don't have to have a why. You can just go and have fun, right? We have 8 attributes we're looking for, like eight different attributes, right? There's one missing: a sense of humor, right? Like, so, anyways, I went off there a little bit, but I think the individuals are going to be gaining a lot by just the interactions, being better leaders, being better followers, just by the mentorship that's provided at those events. And not only by it's a collection of individuals in your local environment that are striving to succeed in something bigger than themselves, right? So you're going to have that you can go to Camp Gladiator, or you can go to CrossFit or whatever, but, like, you're going to find some people in these development pools that are great leaders, that have experience, that are bringing in into our community.
Yeah. And I think I know when I was at the prep course, or SWIC, or whatever it is now, you and I had a lot of conversations about this, and we would lose people, and one of our goals was just to make better people and to have that good experience and all that other stuff. But I just don't want this to be like a puff piece. We're friends. I don't want to be super nice, too nice, and get accused of favoritism and all that. So the development part of it is one thing, and I think that everybody can agree that the developers are fantastic people. They run great programs, but how do you instill the mindset into your recruiters to recruit special warfare candidates? Is it different than the mindset required for a EA recruiter?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're absolutely held to a higher standard. You all came into this business, and my recruiter, like, when I came back for the recruiter assistance program, RAP, which I encourage anybody that's in the program to come back and do that, for sure. He's like, I had graduated from the indoctrination course. I graduated from special operations, underwater operations course in Key West, and I came back, and he's like, "Oh, I didn't think you'd ever make that." Or there's always there's this high expectations, like you're never going to make it, or whatever. Well, and that's kind of what the special forces, or special warfare recruiters rather, are there to guide and mentor and develop our recruits as well. But they're also there to hold a high expectation. We're not. You have folks that are coming in. You have reading lists, and you have things that required knowledge that you have to have with ranks and whatnot. But there's a whole new level associated with special warfare preparation before you even come in. And our recruiters are out there to make sure that the guys are prepared, and that's my expectation as a commander, is to make sure that we are developing a culture of individuals that are expected to be highly competent and airmen of character, and that's the bottom line.
Now, I'm glad you brought up sense of humor, because that's huge, and they really did. Whoever came up with the attributes, which I know who it is, I just don't know if I can mention them, but, like, that is a legitimate thing. Like, you got to have a sense of humor at some regards, whether it's a terrible sense of humor or a really good one. I mean, I'm just throwing it out there.
Whether it manifests itself making fun of your friends to the entire world, like Trent did with that lead into the question. Trent, your sense of humor is noted, my guy. You said that Peaches got turned away from the carnival and I failed indoc, dog. That was in one sentence.
I was going to say he got kidnapped and they accidentally dropped him off, but it's whatever.
If I were to look across our community and say, who are our best operators? They all have we could call it personality, right? But, like, it's not a negative personality. It's somebody that has a sense of humor, somebody that can take on some really, really horrible things and look at the bright side of it and just drive on.
Yep. No, you're right, and that is not an attribute that is measured, but it is definitely encouraged, if you will. Um, so, I'm trying to figure out how to articulate this. I have these issues with this, but you have some phenomenal recruiters that work or that you work for, right?
Absolutely.
And we've ran into a lot of them. You know, your Sergeant Bell out in Orlando, Cameron Spencer, who's no longer the Tampa recruiter. He is still involved in recruitment, but he's not for you. And you got a whole bunch of them. You got and so
Anissa, NorCal, the list is so long.
I know, and I definitely want to give them a shout out and thank them for what they're doing, because they are in the trenches helping out us in the end of the day and helping out our community in the day. So I definitely appreciate it. So my kind of question is as a candidate, what can they expect in terms of support from their recruiter? Not just the, hey, I'm going to get you to MEPS, I'm going to process your paperwork, I'm going to tell you when to show up for these development sessions, but like, what is the limitation of their support to candidates?
Yeah, that's a hard one, and it is really dependent, like on the location and the individual's strengths and weaknesses, like across all the recruiters, right? Like, not everybody's the same, and we have some exceptional recruiters, but like they still have their own like personalities and like extroverts or introverts and those sort of things. What I can tell you is the most important thing that you can do is to develop a relationship with that recruiter, so that they like. Once I was being inspected for a operational readiness inspection, and somebody came up, a senior NCO came up and was like, "Hey, it's really hard to fail somebody that you like." You know, I was like, oh, that's a good point. Like, you're not hiding anything or whatever, but like, you kind of, I call it the squeaky wheel. You have to identify the things that you're having problems with, your strengths and weaknesses, be able to reflect internally on those sort of things, and then to describe that and be able to communicate that with your recruiter, right? So that they know what's going on. And if your expectations are not being met, like one, like your expectations are too high and your recruiter can't fill those, but you still need to be able to communicate it. Or two, he doesn't even know that you want those sorts. There's a really fine balance between pushing too much and not receiving what you think is needed, right? So the squeaky wheel gets oil. I say that until the wheel squeaks too much, and then it's replaced by a new wheel. But like if you're just a constant pain in the butt, like, hey, but we all have to be able to understand where those right and left limits are. And then I'd say one of the aside from being having a sense of humor, having a personality as for an operator, I also think that you need to be a chameleon. Like, you need to be a social chameleon. You got to fit in where in the environments that you're set up at, right? So like with that, it's the same thing on the recruiting side, or when you go to MEPS, or when you go to recruiter, when you meet with a senior leader, whatever those, like you got to kind of act different, right? And when you're with your team, you got to be like somewhat be able to be moldable in that environment as well, right? So your recruiter's there to help you, and he is on goal. Like, his whole job is leveraged and graded on his ability to bring in quality applicants, right? So like,
Yep.
he's working for you, and you brought it up, Peaches, like, hey, I work for the recruit. Like, my thing is, I work for you, you work for the Air Force. Like, that's my leadership style. Mm-hmm. And those recruiters work for you. I mean, they work for me, but they work for the people that want to come in to our business.
No, you're exactly right, and their goal is not necessarily to be your friend.
Absolutely.
Right? They'll be there to mentor you and to support you as much as they can, but they're maybe you become friends, maybe not, but guess what? That, like, sometimes truth hurts, and they've got to be real with you. So speaking of squeaky wheel gets the oil kind of thing, inter service recruiting. Matt Sergeant Donovan Gann, he's now retired or in the process of retiring. So how are we going to handle inter-service transfer, cross trainees, and stuff like that?
Yeah, so that's not the 330th mission. I think it's a growth area that we could get into, and those are discussions that there's a RAND study, and I'm going to throw out an acronym, and I don't know what it stands for, but there's a RAND study that is going on with highly professionals, and that was what I brought up. Like, what is the right mix? What is it? Because the other services do things different. Like you got like the Green Berets, you're going to have 80% are in service transfers or retrainees, and then 20% are going to be non-prior service, right? The Air Force has a completely different model. We're 90% non-prior service, 10% cross trainees and prior service, right? And what is it? What does right look like? And so I've asked them to look into that and get that better. I tell you, at the senior leader level, everyone thinks that we need more inter-service transfers or cross trainees and prior service, but we're not really set up for that right now. So who's going to deal with it? Like it's your career field advisors at the bases, and the career field managers determine within each career field how many they want to come across on an annual basis. So that's going to be different. It's different than right now. We bring in non-prior service. We bring in everyone to the special warfare operator enlistment. Everybody comes in as the same. But TACPs are going to have a different number than combat control, a different number of pararescue and SR, or special reconnaissance, right? So it morphs every year. It changes every year. But your first stop there is your career field advisors and the cross training process, depending on where you're at in your career.
Well, those not to interrupt.
Go ahead, Trent.
Sorry. That number also changes kind of throughout the year, right?
Yeah.
Like if we're not getting enough NPS airmen in there, so those career field managers do have flexibility to flip seats, and all that other stuff. I get a lot of questions. People are like, "Hey, it says that you're only accepting this many this year," and it's like, well, kind of, maybe, but it also depends on like 8 other factors.
Absolutely, and if you're more qualified than the next guy, then like you're going to be the one in that spot. So don't stop your processing.
And the problem there is that, those, speaking as a cross trainee, you know what I mean? Like you bring over a lot of baggage, you know what I'm saying? And speaking of baggage, I know you guys have been looking at my shirt this entire time. You guys should go check out Eberly Stock and get yourself a new bag. You see how smooth that was, Trent? That's how you do a transition into an ad read. Go over to eberlystock.com, check them out. They've got a bunch of stuff from their technical gear to their hunting packs. They've got a brand new bino pack that everybody's going crazy for. My personal favorite, I'm a concealed carry guy. All 50 states, thanks to the Second Amendment of the Constitution of the United States of America, shall not be infringed, baby. I put my concealed carry into my bando pack. I'm kidding. I carry legally everywhere I go. I put it in the bando pack. You can't see it. I protect myself and my family, and I enjoy one of those big R rights that I love so much. So go over to Eberly Stock. They're good friends of ours. Get whatever it is that you need. Some of their low vis carry packs, all the way through, hunting packs that you can actually conceal an entire long gun in. You can walk in, you can walk out. They're awesome. They're friends of ours over at Eberly Stock. So go check them out, eberlystock.com. The code is OR10, so OR10 at checkout. You know what else you can put in that fanny pack, Trent? You can put some Cardomax in there. I know you love Cardomax.
With your transitions when I'm tired. You know what I mean? Like, I am too tired for this conversation right now with your transitions being ridiculous. That's why I have Cardomax with me at all times, because any time is a good time for caffeine. So there you go.
Anytime is a good time.
Promo code for that one, baby.
Yeah, Cardomax is the one's ready. Go to cardomax.com, put in the code, get your caffeine, hydration, and also your immune booster, which I'm a big fan of as well.
I don't know why our friends trust us with helping them out in any way. We're so ridiculous. We are not good at this. All right, sir, you kind of alluded to it earlier. We're going to ask some lightning round sort of questions here. You already put out the numbers for the IFT. We did an IFT episode where we talked about, hey, this is where we think you should be for the sweet spot. You put what they need to get into the development program. What's your opinion on waiting? Because we've gotten this question a lot, and it was a little bit contentious, right? We typically tell people, we want you to be at a 90% solution and stop waiting. We don't want you to be king of the development program. And you kind of talked about that earlier. People stay in that development program. I don't care if you're the best candidate in the development program. You need to get into the Air Force and start this process, because it's going to take 2 years. Can you just kind of riff on that? How long should people be waiting? Like when do you think that candidates are ready?
Yeah, and that is absolutely everything you just said was accurate, Aaron. My opinion is that you should be slightly above average at everything, right? So like when I came in, I was good at running or whatever. But like if you're sitting at 12 pull-ups and 60 sit-ups, 60 push-ups, and a mile and a half run in under 10, like you're ready. Now, but the other thing here is like, what did it take for you to get there? Like I've always been able to advance relatively quickly. And like, there's no reason for you. Like the king of the development pool is like, absolutely, you don't want to go there. You don't want to go there. But like, if it takes you a whole hell of a lot of time to get that extra push up or that extra pull up, like, then you kind of got to look at that differently. And maybe you're not the right guy, but we have plenty of folks that come into the system and they're dropping minutes in weeks off their run time. They're adding 10 push-ups. And it depends on your workout cycle and those sort of things. But yeah, it really depends on your ability to make gains, and then push forward. But like my thing is, like, we don't need somebody that can do 120 pull-ups or 120 push-ups rather, and then they run a 1040. Like that's it doesn't matter, right? Like slightly above average at everything is a goal.
Nice. The other question we get all the time is about waivers. People hit us with these. Yep. First of all, I don't know why they're okay with putting their HIPAA information into the group chat. But geez, always, man, the things that people tell us in the group chat. But the question is about waivers, right? So we never answer medical questions. Yeah. We've always held that line. Like we don't know. Yeah. The question I want to ask though, will they get that first no? They somehow get disqualified, or maybe is everything really waiverable, or do they need to find a second doctor to get a second opinion? Can you talk about the waiver process a little bit? And I know it's such a gray area and it's individual, but we try to get the information out there.
Yeah, for sure. The waiver process, there are some hard no's, but I'll tell you, when folks are going to MEPS and they're being qualified to enter into the service, that's what they're being qualified to do, is enter into the service, not enter into special warfare. So once they get into the service, they will be. So there's two kind of waivers, like pre-accessions waivers are they are not a hard and fast here or there, but like you're being prepared to go into service. And then when you're in the second week of BMT, then you get your class 3 flight physical, and then you have the opportunity to be waived for certain things. And there's color vision and depth perception and your eye, just your eyesight in general, things like that. Whether you had asthma or any of those things, they are waiverable. But I'll tell you, it's really hard to waiver some of these things, and we're looking at, there's a large problem set within processing at MEPS, and it has to do with some programs that came online. And I'll tell you, some of the MEPS stations out there are sitting at like 43% approval rate for their first time visits. Some of them are higher, like 70, 80% first time. So they'll relook the paperwork. So my point is, like, now is not the time within our medical system and the availability for information. Now is not the time to try and hide something. Now is not the time to say, well, that happened, but I'm not going to bring it up. It's better for you to bring it up because they're gonna most likely find it. And then the waiver process is capable. So, but having all your stuff in one sock is really important. And when your recruiters ask you for information, like, go and get it, and they'll be able to help you through that waiver, because we are hurting on numbers. So if you can get all your stuff in and have the ability to have that conversation, that's going to be beneficial for everybody.
It's a brave new world, hard to hide stuff. But also with like security clearances, right? Like there's things you can hide maybe and things you can't, and just don't change your story. I don't know how many times we run into that. People all of a sudden remember that they smoked a bunch of crack when they get to BMT and they didn't tell their recruiters. It's crazy. I don't know. Kids smoke crack. I don't know anything about drugs, kids. No. It's just don't change your story, kids. Guys, adults, people. with the new national security strategy and us posturing towards this near peer environment, I know everybody's talking about it. Are we changing the way that we're looking for recruits? Are we looking for different character traits? Is this affecting recruiting at all now that we pulled out of the GWAT, we're out of Afghanistan, everything like that, and now we're focusing on a higher end potential fight. We're back in like the kind of the Cold War days. Are we changing the type of person we're looking for or how we're looking for them at all?
I'd say no, other than we are having a problem with the current job environment in the United States. Is like it's hard to find anybody to the quality applicants are not available. But I'd say we are looking for folks that have adaptability, right? And folks that can take on, like, we say that the national security strategy is going through this near peer model and where we're going, but that doesn't mean that we are not still looking for folks that can to get on the ground and be the tactical leaders that we need them to be, right? So like on the recruiting side, we still need, I don't care if everything's going to be cyber and working through satellites in the future. Like, we still need people that can get in the field, and the meat eaters and the guys that can knock down doors. Right? We still need those people, and it opens up other opportunities, I think, especially in like the special reconnaissance field, to go after certain things. But like independently, it's inside of recruiting. We have not shifted our focus towards that in special warfare. I think Air Force at large is probably looking at some more technical aspects associated with recruiting in general, but within special warfare, there's been no shift.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more on the type of person we're looking for. But with those challenges, we're always skirting the line between, we get a lot of the people that are of the age that could join the Air Force right now. But sometimes we do get those like 13, 14-year-olds that are like, hey, I want to join the Air Force. And I think sometimes we miss the mark when we're like, hey, just go enjoy your life. But we are running into that population problem when they're 18, 19 years old, where they're not eligible or capable of making that leap. So what are the limitations that we're seeing? And is there advice that we should be giving to those people earlier on in their lives to kind of make up for some of that, maybe time spent in front of a screen?
Yeah, obviously, you just alluded to it, Trent. But like, I'd say lifestyle changes, and like as we're parents and whatnot, and like bringing youth up, those the lifestyle choices associated, whether that's drug use or with the legalization of different things and the cannabises and whatnot, and the interwebs. Yeah, those lifestyle changes, I think, and alterations are affecting our ability to find that person that has the right capacity to consider military service. So I think that the aperture associated with our acceptance of those folks that have alternate lifestyles, I think, is open. I think that there's opportunities for folks and we talk about diversity inside the service quite a lot, and we want people to be able to think differently, and that's one of the benefits of coming into the Air Force. We encourage individualism, so we encourage folks that think outside the box so that we can come up with creative solutions to hard problems, right? So yes, I didn't answer your question, but I just kind of
One of my favorite quotes from a previous podcast, sir, was we asked somebody a question, and I believe it was the ATC commander, and he looked straight at us and he goes, that's a great question. I'm going to answer the question I wish you would have asked as opposed to the one you did ask. And then he just pivoted, and what he thought,
right,
it was one of the right to his face. He was like, hey, great question. I'm going to answer the one I wish you would have asked. So you just kind of answered it a little bit right there, and you alluded to it. But we're gonna ask some 10,000-foot questions, sir.
Okay.
Why go USAF? Why go Air Force right now? We talked about competition with the other branches. We talked about changing mission sets. We talked about all these sacrifices they're going to have to make. So why Air Force? Why special warfare?
Yeah, and so you prepped me with that question before this podcast, and I wrote down an answer. I was like, really? Like, anybody that walks in, like, you got a strip mall and you got all the services right there. Like, the first choice is the Air Force. Like, there's no doubt. But what I ask recruits often, that obviously the pool that I ask them in is folks that are inclined to go to the Air Force route. I ask them, like, what entices you to go in the Air Force, right? So you're more technically driven. You believe that you're going to be able to have a focused life, whether like that's balanced between your work and your life. As in the Air Force, like you come in, it's more career oriented folks. It's more folks that are technically minded, and it's sustainable, right? So like I believe that the service in the Air Force is sustainable because there's hard things to do, there's hard problem sets to get after, and we encourage folks of character to come in and to solve those hard problems, right? And we're like, why do you want to go special warfare? They're like, and then I asked her, like, why would somebody, you're not particularly this person, but like, why would somebody want to go in the Army or the Marines, right? Because of camaraderie, because of history, because like, I want to go see some action. I want to see things that I want to do hard stuff and be, everybody wants to do hard stuff until it's time to do hard stuff.
Until it's time to do it.
That's right.
So it's time to do hard stuff. Yeah.
But that's what, and I think that's what special warfare gives to us, is like, you have the quality of life stuff. You have the ability to be an individual. You have the ability to work with like-minded people that think outside the box, right? But then you also have the opportunity to get after it in combat and in all facets of the military operations side. So that's kind of that wasn't
answer,
smooth,
sir.
But.
I don't care. The bones of the comment were solid, and those, there was a lot of north-south head shaking from the three of us as you were saying those things. We want to do something hard. We want to be taken care of. We want to make this a career and not just a job. We want to be able to make those connections in the best possible environment. And those are all the reasons why, I came into the Air Force, and then, why I wanted to be a PJ. That has another layer on top of that. So for all those people that want to try this thing that's impossible, you alluded to it earlier, but the attrition rate hasn't really budged. We're still doing super hard things. People are still failing, right? What advice would you give to our listeners to get them through? Like, what got you through the pipeline? If you could sit these people down and just, right before they go off and they ship, what kind of advice would you give to the candidates out there listening?
Yeah, I mentioned it earlier, and it was during one of those development sessions, and I was talking about some high level, like, you have to do this, do that. My best advice that I can give people is be yourself. We have assessment and selection where we're going to be looking at all these attributes. We are going to dissect you from head to toe, and the most intrinsic things about you will be divulged. And if you try and hide what it is about you that makes you you, it will be absolutely apparent that you are trying to be somebody else, and that is not something that's beneficial to you or the Air Force. If you're not a person that has the commitment and the competence and the capability to be in our community, like you're not going to be able to fake it. So I'd say be you. And there's 4 types of people in any well-run organization. That's leaders, it's followers, it's enforcers, and we talked about this earlier. It's the clown. If you are a leader, then be a leader. If you are a follower, then be a follower. If you are that enforcer, like you will die by the vine of like trying to get other people to listen to, like, this is the rules, do it. But you have to have that sense of humor. You have to have the clown. And if any of those people are stifled, if there's too many chiefs and not enough Indians, you have to have that fine balance. So my sole desire is for individuals to come in with we ask for diversity. We ask for people to be different. We're going to ask you to conform in certain ways, wearing the uniform and acting a certain way and calling people sir, whatever that is, right? But be yourself and bring what you got to the table.
Absolutely, sir. Great advice. There's a lot of room at this big table for you to be yourself, but in the end, we're in the business of warfighting. We are here to conduct warfighting on behalf of a grateful nation. That's what we're here to do. Lieutenant Colonel Sam Schindler, thank you for coming on, sir, the commander of the 330th Recruiting Squadron. You put a ton of great info out. We can't wait to get this one out so that everybody can help themselves. Get on the website at onesready.com. You can find all of our stuff there. We're on every single podcast platform. You can just Google us. We'll come right up. For the AFSPECWAR community, follow us on Instagram. Of course, throw us a DM. We'll be able to get you to whoever it is that you need to get to. That is, if you've done the work yourself previous. Sir, thanks for coming on. Everybody else out there, go check the YouTube out. Have a great day. Train hard, and we'll see you next time.
I appreciate it, fellas.
Later.